What I'm tracking right now has grown significantly more complex than what most people are currently aware of, and I want to be direct with you about what the latest data is showing. This is not a situation where the worst is behind us. What we just witnessed, a historic blizzard that buried New York City, Long Island, New Jersey, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts under 2 to 3 feet of snow, knocked out power to over 600,000 homes and businesses, canceled more than 5,300 flights, and forced governors across multiple states to declare emergencies. That event was severe, and its impacts are still being felt right now. But the atmospheric pattern that produced it is not breaking down. It is evolving. And the evolution I'm seeing in the most recent model data tells me that the next several weeks are going to bring a chain of additional storm systems, another round of life-threatening Arctic air, a significant atmospheric river threat on the west coast, and a credible nor'easter signal developing for the eastern seaboard. Over 150 million people remain in the path of what comes next. I want to walk you through all of it, region by region, day by day, so you understand the full scope of what this pattern is capable of producing. Before I get into the next wave, I need to explain what the current surface conditions mean for everything that follows. Across New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts, we still have between 1 and 3 feet of snow on the ground. That snowpack is not going anywhere quickly. Temperatures are running 15 to 25 degrees below normal, and the forecast does not show any significant warm-up over the next 5 to 7 days. What that means operationally is that road crews are dealing with compacted snow and ice on surfaces that are not responding to treatment the way they normally would. Power restoration in areas that took the heaviest ice loading, particularly across interior New England, upstate New York, and parts of northern New Jersey, is being delayed by continued cold, downed infrastructure, and access problems on rural roads. I'm watching several counties in Massachusetts and Rhode Island where outages could persist for 5 to 7 more days based on current repair timelines and the incoming cold. That is a serious public safety concern, and it needs to be stated clearly. Further south, the flash freeze that developed behind the blizzard left a thin glaze of ice on untreated surfaces across Virginia, the Carolinas, Georgia, and northern Alabama, responsible for accidents and road closures that were not part of the original storm forecast. Nashville continues to deal with significant infrastructure damage, with nearly 90% of the city having lost power at the storm's peak, and restoration crews now working in temperatures dropping into the teens tonight. The compounding effect of back-to-back cold nights on a power grid that is already stressed is something I'm watching very carefully in that region. The cold air mass that came in behind the blizzard is not retreating. It is being reinforced. An upper-level low-pressure system anchored over central Canada is spinning additional Arctic air southward. And by tonight into tomorrow morning, I'm expecting temperatures to drop to near zero or below zero across much of the Ohio Valley, with wind chills falling to -20 to -30 degrees in Columbus, Cincinnati, Indianapolis, and Louisville. That same Arctic air pushes into the Tennessee Valley tomorrow morning, dropping temperatures in Nashville, Huntsville, and Memphis to between 5 and 15 degrees. Wind chills there will fall to -10 to -20 degrees. People who are already without heat are now facing a second and potentially third night of temperatures well below freezing inside their homes. That is a hypothermia risk, and I want to be clear about that without overstating it. If you have elderly neighbors or family in outage areas, check on them tonight. The cold tonight is not something to take lightly. By Tuesday and Wednesday, the core of the Arctic air mass shifts eastward, bringing the most extreme cold to the Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and the Northeast. I'm looking at temperatures in Baltimore, Philadelphia, and New York City falling to between -5 and +5 degrees by Wednesday morning, with wind chills reaching -25 to -35 degrees. Dallas and Fort Worth will struggle to get above freezing through Tuesday, with temperatures dropping back into the single digits Tuesday night. Oklahoma City faces a similar setup. Little Rock gets a brief window above freezing Tuesday afternoon. That will help melt some surface ice. But by Wednesday, temperatures are back into the teens across most of the central and southern plains. Confidence in this cold forecast is high. The models have been in strong agreement on magnitude and timing for the past 48 hours, and I am not expecting significant changes here. While the eastern two-thirds of the country deals with cold and lingering storm impacts, a separate significant threat is developing on the west coast. An atmospheric river is set to make landfall along California and the Pacific Northwest, beginning as early as Tuesday and continuing through Thursday. This is not a minor rainfall event. I'm tracking 3 to 6 inches of rainfall across the coastal ranges of Northern California and Southern Oregon over a 36-hour period. In the Sierra Nevada, that translates to 2 to 4 feet of new snow above 6,000 feet, but below that elevation, the rain-snow line becomes critical. If temperatures run even slightly warmer than modeled, runoff and flooding potential in the Sacramento and San Joaquin valleys increases significantly. I'm not ready to lock in a specific flood forecast yet, but confidence is still increasing and the trend has been toward a wetter solution over the past 24 hours. For Seattle and Portland, saturated soils combined with incoming heavy rainfall rates raise the risk of localized flooding and landslides in the Cascade foothills. This part of the forecast still carries some placement uncertainty, but the signal is consistent enough that I'm flagging it now. One additional concern I want to raise before moving to the Great Lakes is the situation developing across the interior Southeast and Southern Appalachians. The combination of ice-loaded tree limbs, weakened power line infrastructure from the initial storm, and now a second round of below-freezing temperatures creates a compounding damage scenario. Crews working to restore power in western North Carolina, eastern Tennessee, and northern Georgia are operating in conditions where refreezing on already stressed lines is a real possibility. I've seen this pattern before. The first ice storm does the structural damage, and the prolonged cold that follows is what pushes outage durations from days into weeks. That is the scenario I am watching most closely for those areas right now, and it is why I keep coming back to the duration of cold in this forecast as being just as important as the storm events themselves. The Great Lakes region will see enhanced lake effect snow develop on the downwind shores of Lake Erie, Lake Ontario, and Lake Michigan beginning Tuesday night through Thursday. The temperature differential between the lake surfaces and the overlying air mass is large enough that I'm expecting intense and localized snowfall bands, particularly downwind of Lake Ontario toward Watertown, Syracuse, and the Tug Hill Plateau, where 1 to 2 feet from lake effect alone are possible over 48 hours. Downwind of Lake Erie, Cleveland, and Buffalo should expect additional accumulations of 6 to 14 inches through Wednesday. Beyond the lake effect, I'm tracking a shortwave disturbance currently over the northern Rockies that will move into the Great Plains by Wednesday. Confidence on the exact track is still building, but the current trend suggests a swath of 2 to 5 inches of snow clipping the Ohio Valley Thursday into Friday from Kansas City through Indianapolis and Columbus, and potentially into Pittsburgh and western Pennsylvania. There is room for higher totals if the track shifts south. I'll have better information within 24 to 36 hours. The model data has been showing a consistent but still uncertain signal for a nor'easter along the eastern seaboard by late Friday into the weekend. The ingredients are coming together: cold air locked over New England and the mid-Atlantic, Atlantic sea surface temperatures warm enough to support significant moisture transport, and the GFS model showing an offshore low developing east of Cape Hatteras by Friday night, tracking toward Cape Cod by Saturday morning. The track uncertainty is real. A system 100 miles further offshore produces a fundamentally different outcome. The European model has been slightly more aggressive with this low, which would mean heavier snow for coastal New England and the mid-Atlantic, but I'm not ready to issue specific snowfall totals yet. What I will say is that the probability of a significant winter weather event affecting the I-95 corridor from Washington, D.C. through Boston late this week is, in my assessment, between 40 and 60%. That is high enough that you need to be watching for updates closely. If the more aggressive solution verifies, Providence, Boston, Portland, and coastal Maine could see another 6 to 14 inches on top of existing snowpack, which would compound infrastructure damage and extend power outage timelines further. Washington, D.C., Philadelphia, and New York City face a more complex precipitation-type question. A mix of snow, sleet, and freezing rain is possible on the interior side depending on the final track, and ice accumulation potential is something I'm not ruling out for those areas. Before I close out this briefing, I also want to address the secondary impacts that tend to get underreported in situations like this. Bridge decks and overpasses across the Mid-Atlantic and Ohio Valley are freezing faster than road surfaces right now, and that hazard exists even in areas where no new precipitation is falling. Salt and treatment chemicals lose effectiveness below certain temperature thresholds, and we are well below those thresholds in many locations. Travel in the affected regions should be considered dangerous until further notice, not just during precipitation events, but on any night where temperatures drop below 20 degrees on a surface that saw any moisture in the previous 24 hours. I want to be direct about that because it is a hazard that leads to serious accidents even when skies are clear. Looking into early March, the large-scale pattern is not showing signs of breaking down. A persistent negative Arctic oscillation and a ridge of high pressure anchored over the Pacific keep the door open for Arctic outbreaks through at least the first half of March. An increasingly active southern storm track is also developing as moisture availability along the southern jet stream increases. I am not forecasting a specific major cyclone for early March at this time, but the pattern supports one and the model data has been trending in that direction for several days. The Ohio Valley, the Mid-Atlantic, and New England all need to remain on alert through the end of the month. I will have more specific guidance as the window tightens. I want to thank you for following this briefing. The combination of lingering storm damage, reinforced Arctic cold, and additional systems in the pipeline makes the next 10 to 14 days a period of sustained and serious weather risk for a very large portion of the country. Make sure you have a plan, check on those around you who may be vulnerable, and continue watching for updates, particularly on the nor'easter signal developing for late this week. I will have more for you shortly.